So.
Thanks for having me. I want to say good morning to members of the State Board of Education and all the guests that are here today. I'm here this morning to K-12 in Arizona. Right now, there are three entities that set policy for K-12 education: the governor, the legislature, and this State Board of Education. One could argue with three chefs in the kitchen, that's a recipe for lack of accountability. I want to state to you unambiguously that I view my job as ensuring that there is alignment between the three entities so that there is clarity around our mission and that we're all working towards the goal of significantly improving the educational experience that all our kids receive. For me, there are 5 words that I want to have associated with Arizona education. The first is choice. The second is excellence. The third is accountability. The fourth is results. And the fifth is everyone. Let me talk just a little bit about each of these. First, on choice. Parents and children need quality choices so that they can choose the education that's best for them. We are fortunate to live in a state where we already have moved on this path. In Arizona, we have more choices in education than parents elsewhere in the nation. Public schools, private schools, religious schools, charter schools, online schools, and homeschooling all give our families choices that aren't available in many other states. This is a critical element of educational success, and I ask this board to continue these achievements and, if anything, accelerate the pace of reforms that give more choices to more families. Second, I want to talk on excellence. That's not a word we get to use enough when talking about our state's K-12 education system. Even though we have 3 of the 10 best schools in the nation: Basis Scottsdale, Basis Tucson North, and University High School. So we know how to do this in our state. We just need to do it more frequently and more widely. Despite these successes, we know we are below the mark in relation to other states in student achievement, particularly in reading and math. And our own measurements of success do not provide us the real picture. For example, when you compare what Arizona reports as proficiency in 8th grade reading and math versus the National Assessment of Educational Progress, and what that tells us, the results are discouraging. Arizona tells our citizens that 70% of our 8th graders are proficient in reading, when according to NAEP, only 28% of our 8th graders are proficient in reading. That's an astounding difference, in addition to the fact that we're 6% below the national average. We can do better. Also, we are told our 8th grade proficiency in math, the previous paragraph I was referring to reading. This paragraph I want to talk about math. Our 8th grade proficiency in math, we are told, is at 59% of our kids. According to NAEP, it's 31% of our kids, and we're 3% below the national average. The disparity is smaller, still way too large, and again, we can do better. There are 2 major problems with the data. First, Arizona scores are too low. I would say unacceptably low. Second, we're giving false assurance to too many parents that their kids are well prepared for life or college, when in fact they are not. So we need to commit ourselves to achieving excellence. And when we see excellence, we should understand who and what creates it and export those best practices to other schools so that they can benefit from it. This board, along with my office and the legislature, needs to design policies that get Arizona on a path to significant improvement in the quality of education. This won't happen overnight. It's a long-term proposition, but it can be done, and we need to make it our primary focus. The third word I want to emphasize is accountability. It's a word that is vastly underutilized when it comes to education. And I want this board to know that it's a word that I take very seriously. We need to set the example by also being accountable, and in doing so, we will create a culture that flows through the education chain to governing boards, to superintendents, to principals, to teachers, to parents, and ultimately to the students themselves. Where we see mediocrity, we should call it for what it is, and demand that the people responsible for that school, from the elected governing board, to the superintendent, to the principal, to the teachers, up their game and make meaningful improvements. And if they can't summon the will to do it, they should step aside and let someone else take charge who can. When we see failure, we can't just sit idly by and do nothing. It's not the children's fault that they are left at a failing school, but our kids are the ones that pay the price for the failure of adults around them to provide the environment where they can learn. We have a moral obligation to give our kids the best we've got. The fourth word I want to emphasize is results. As you know, I come from the world of business, where people are measured by results. Government is a different world, where process seems to be a higher priority and results often take a back seat. We've just gone through our state's budget process, and discussions about education were all about funding levels. Between federal, state, and local dollars, Arizona is spending approximately $10 billion to educate just over 1 million school children in our K-12 schools. Now it's time to focus on how we best use the resources we have. I would far prefer to focus on, are the kids learning? Are the kids reading? By looking at results, and ultimately, are the kids graduating? And prepared for what's next by looking at our graduation rates. Our children would be far better served by focusing on the answers to those questions than the ones we often find ourselves debating at the state capitol. During the budget process, I also highlighted my Classrooms First initiative that emphasized spending money in the classroom on teachers and students, rather than on bureaucracy and administration. That focus will be a permanent feature of my administration. We are oftentimes spending money in the wrong places, and not enough in the classroom where it really matters. I'm asking for this board's help in maintaining focus on classroom spending and ensuring that school districts have their priorities right when they're spending taxpayer money. The final word I want to emphasize is everyone. All the words I've used so far, choice, excellence, accountability, and results, don't work if they don't apply to all our children in all corners of our state. It shouldn't matter what your zip code is. If you're a child in Arizona, you deserve our absolute best. We've accepted that public education is a key responsibility of the state. But we need to ensure the benefits of our actions apply to all our children. Two other items before I conclude. One, I've spoken for some time and have not yet said the words Common Core. As you know, I am against Common Core, and I openly opposed it in my run for office. That has not changed. I think the current Washington administration has hurt K-12 education by involving itself in recent funding and waiver decisions and frustrated parents to no end. Not to mention the damage done by a consistent federal government one-size-fits-all mentality, ignoring the innovation of individual states and education reform champions over the past 4 decades. It's equally important to know I have high expectations and I am for high standards. You simply cannot have excellence without them. Therefore, I am calling on this board to make right this situation. Our state needs to act so we can move forward. Begin by reviewing the English language arts and mathematics standards in their entirety to ensure that our children are well standards you develop with full transparency. Standards that are Arizona's standards, that our parents and from all people at all levels of education from every corner of our state, including parents, teachers, principals, and content experts. And the focus needs to be on Arizona solution. And in any instance during your review, you find situations where Arizona standards can outperform or improve our current standards, I ask you recommend replacement immediately. We can learn from others, but at the end of the day, the standards need to come from Arizona, and they need to help us achieve the objectives outlined in these comments. I call on President Greg Miller and the members of the State Board of Education to work with the superintendent to ensure that we get this done collaboratively and as quickly as possible. For our teachers and parents to have certainty so we can carry on with the important work of educating our students. Finally, I want to acknowledge the appointment of President Michael Crow to this board. As you know, I'm an ASU alumnus, and I have marveled at the job Dr. Crow has done in bringing real innovation and vision to a very large public institution, what is affectionately known by some as the New American University. I want to point out just a few of the accomplishments he's made over the years at that institution. W.P. Carey School of Business is now one of the best business schools in the world. The Ira A. Fulton School of Engineering is in the top 50 engineering schools in the nation. The Barrett Honors College was recently named one of the top 3 honors colleges. ASU has revitalized downtown Phoenix to a vibrant epicenter of business and entertainment. From exemplary programs and innovations and inline learning and on, we have living proof that good people can make huge contributions to education and to the quality of life in Arizona. This board can learn from an innovator's example and can adopt his commitment to excellence and results for everyone. And from that, we will all benefit. He's an incredible resource, and we are fortunate to have him in our great state. Thank you for having me, and I would welcome any questions that you have for me.
Well, thank you, Governor. We really appreciate you and your time here today. Are there any questions from members of the board? Seeing none, hearing none. Thank you again for coming. I think that we as a board can work effectively to do the kind of review that you're asking for. The current standards have been in place now for 5 years, and typically we have a review process that does that anyway. We just finished up with physical ed and some so LA and math on the horizon. We go again done as quickly as we possibly can.
Thank you, Mr. After just spending campaigning around our state, that you open this to and want to be involved in this process.
And then is that like VO to like a package? That's like a shot or a clip. Oh my god.
Agree. Person
Papers everywhere.
political
Oh no, of course.
I found that I sounded like I stole the show.
welcome the new members.
Overall, there are a lot of departments and people involved. First, DHS is launching its If You See Something, Say Something